It's May 29th, 2011. The Indianapolis 500 is in the closing laps, as it's turned into a battle of fuel strategy. With 20 laps to go, it looks like Danica Patrick has an opportunity to become the first woman to win the race, should a caution fall at the right time. But she eventually comes into the pits for fuel. Unlikely rookie Bertrand Baguette also appears to have a shot, but doesn't get the timely caution necessary for him to make it stretch. He dives into the pits as well, which hands the lead over to another rookie, Panther Racing's J.R. Hildebrand. Hildebrand enters the final lap of the race with a sizable lead, and he appears to be good to the finish on fuel. However, as he enters the final corner, he drifts high attempting to pass the lapped car of Charlie Kimball. This forces Hildebrand out of the groove, as he hits the turn 4 wall on exit. Dan Wheldon, in a one-off with former teammate Bryan Herta, comes through to score what might be the most dramatic victory in Indy 500 history. For Hildebrand, he'll still find himself searching for that first IndyCar Series win to this day, more than a decade later. For Panther Racing, this will be their 4th consecutive runner-up finish at Indianapolis, 2 of those ironically coming with Wheldon behind the wheel. And for Wheldon, this will be the final victory of his career, before his untimely death at Las Vegas less than 5 months later. But what led up to all of this? How did we get here? And where did we end up going from here? This is a look back at the team that came up 1 spot short at the Indianapolis 500 4 years in a row.
And guys, for the 8th time in his career and 2nd time here in Indianapolis, Vítor Meira finishes 2nd.
Just things didn't really happen our way, and we finished 2nd. But you know what? This is a very good result compared to the struggle we had last year in the beginning of this season. Definitely Panther Racing is back, and the big three is better. Watch out.
We just didn't quite have it for him at the end. I mean, the crew have worked incredibly hard the whole month. You know, it doesn't just, you're not just the people at the racetrack, but the people at home as well, back at the shop, and you know, even the families of the people back at the shop. And it was a tough day, but certainly a very rewarding one after a tough month. I was on the same strategy as Dario, but I'm going to. You know, I was very disciplined for once in my life. I could hear the team screaming at me to save fuel.
Finishing 2nd the last 2 years, wins when J.R. Hildebrand hits the wall coming out of 4. Hildebrand shaking his head, and he still crossed the line in 2nd place.
You know, man, like, I owe all of it to this team. This team deserved to win today. They've come in 2nd the last 3 years in a row, and I really didn't want to be the next bridesmaid when it came to us at the end there. You know, if we were running great and we finished 5th and that was the best we could get, you know, that's just what you get, you know. But, you know, we have a chance to win for a team like this on Memorial Day weekend with all the soldiers. We got a bunch of people out here this weekend. You know, I felt like I really owed this to them and this team. And, you know, it's just a bummer to come home 2nd again.
In case you're a newer IndyCar fan, let's get caught up on Panther's history real quick. Panther Racing was formed in late 1997 as a new team in the Indy Racing League, shortly following the infamous CART IRL split. It was formed by multiple team owners, including team manager John Barnes, current Indianapolis Motor Speedway president Doug Bowles, and Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, that Jim Harbaugh.
I still believe is the single greatest moment in a sporting event that I've ever been a fan at or watched. Observed the start of the Indy 500.
In fact, the reason the team used the number 4 was because it was Harbaugh's jersey number during his NFL career. Panther first competed in the series in 1998, and Scott Goodyear scored the team's first victory at Phoenix a year later. While IndyCar fans of today might not think of Panther as a top team in the series, they were dominant in the early 2000s with Sam Hornish Jr., winning the 2001 and 2002 series championships. And to this day, disregarding the end of Champ Car during the final years of the split, Panther is the last team outside the big three of Penske, Ganassi, and Andretti to win an IndyCar Series championship. Hornish remained with the team through the end of 2003, and despite expanding to a 2-car team in 2004, after his departure, the team struggled to find the same level of success. They did win a race with Thomas Scheckter at Texas in 2005, but elsewhere their results were pretty lackluster compared to what they'd achieved with Hornish. 2006 comes around and the team signs Vítor Meira, going back to a single-car effort. And while they didn't win a race that year, they did run well, finishing on the podium 6 times. 2007 marked a bit of a setback for Panther as they expanded back to 2 cars with Kosuke Matsuura. But neither him nor Meira scored a podium finish all season. Now we get into the heart of this story. It's 2008 and Meira is off to an even worse start this season. He does open the season with a top 10 at Homestead, but going into the Indy 500, he finds himself on a run of 3 straight DNFs. Meira qualifies well enough, sliding into the middle of the 3rd row with an 8th place starting spot. And in the race, he proves his fast run in qualifying was no fluke. On the restart with 41 laps to go, Meira finds himself 3rd behind Ed Carpenter and the dominant car of the day, Scott Dixon. Dixon passes Carpenter before they even reach the yard of bricks, but Meira takes them 3 wide, threading the needle to claim the lead of the race.
While you finished, you saw a daring move by Vítor Meira, and Meira and boy Dixon both shot around Ed Carpenter, who stayed out to take the race lead, but he is already being shuffled back. But Vítor Meira, the 1-car team, is now in the lead of the Indianapolis 500. Meanwhile, the race leader, Vítor Meira, can he pull this off, Jack? This is a 1-car effort against the big 3.
And Marty, remember, they've added David Cripps to the squad, and the one thing that David Cripps has done throughout this race, coached Vítor Meira along with Pancho Carter on making hay on starts. They've worked on it, they've worked on the car, they had a little downforce, and now he finds himself out front as the little team that could. But he had a little extra motivation. Earlier today, the National Guard Staff Sergeant Patrick Shannon presented to Vítor Meira his camouflage uniform, his beret, his Purple Heart, and his Bronze Star from Sergeant Patrick Shannon's time in Iraq, and said, "This may change your luck, Vítor."
Yeah, well, they might have given him a cannon too, because the way he shot out of it coming around to make this pass for the lead. Let's go back and take a look, guys.
Restarts are the perfect time to be able to get past people. He takes advantage with the lap car on the right-hand side, of Carpenter, and he splits down the middle, threads the needle. You wouldn't get away with that too many times.
Vítor Meira has finished 2nd 7 times in his IndyCar career, 80 starts without a win.
You might have expected Dixon to get back by Meira fairly quickly, but Vítor holds the lead surprisingly well. 10 laps after the restart, a caution comes out as Milka Duno spins while racing Buddy Lazier. And while this set of pit stops is probably best remembered for the race-ending contact between Danica Patrick and Ryan Briscoe, something much more critical to the outcome of this race happens here. Dixon's pit crew regains him the lead. He jumps Meira. Panther's back to 2nd now. Now Meira did get the jump on Dixon on that last restart, but Dixon had to deal with Carpenter, who stayed out under that caution to inherit the lead. This time, the race restarts with 24 laps to go, and Dixon has a clear track ahead of him. Meira actually has to do a bit of defending on the restart, as Elio Castroneves looks to make a move behind him. But Elio's about to get some company from Marco Andretti, which allows Meira to refocus and start planning a potential move to get back by Dixon. While Meira holds his ground behind Dixon, Andretti gets by Castroneves for 3rd and eventually begins running Meira down. With 5 laps to go, however, Meira begins mounting one final charge.
He's in his toe. He's close enough to get a toe from Dixon.
Coming down to 3 to go. 3 to go. Let's go get him.
That is Meira's team urging him on. He finished 2nd here in 2005 to Dan Wheldon. Oh, he almost wiggled there.
That's because he's not lifting off. He's just got his foot flat on the gas.
You can't lift now.
But Dixon is able to respond and pull back out a bit.
This time by, what will be the gap? Remember, it was 0.4 of a second on the last lap, and it's now 0.6 of a second. That little wiggle cost him 0.2.
0.2. I have a feeling, I'm not quite sure, but I think Dixon might have been a little bit worried about the fuel, and he tried to save a little bit for 2 laps because he just pulled out more distance again.
Go get him. Go get him.
You can hear the spotters still urging him.
Dixon ran 2:21 that last time.
Yeah.
Vítor Meira 2:19. I'm not so sure that Dixon, as you mentioned, that he was sort of hitting back and just sitting back a little bit and conserving.
When they reach lap traffic, Dixon is able to clear it better than Meira. And that's the race right there.
Coming through turn number 4, Scott Dixon is going to complete his perfect storm with a win at the Indianapolis 500.
Exceptional.
Take your time and wait to those people, Scott. Great job, man. Good job, boys. Good job. Woo! Congratulations, Scott. Great job.
And guys, for the 8th time in his career and 2nd time here at Indianapolis, Vítor Meira finishes 2nd.
There's obvious disappointment for Meira, but given how the last season and a half or so has gone for him, it's hard to be down on yourself too much.
Well, Vítor Meira leading laps here. You know, Vítor, we hear all about the big three. And then you guys appear. What is it like leading, knowing that nobody counted you guys to lead laps and perhaps win this race?
Nobody but the Delphi National Guard crew. We really prepared the car, and everything was according to plan. Just things didn't really happen our way, and we finished 2nd. But you know what? This is a very good result compared to the struggle we had last year in the beginning of this season. Definitely Panther Racing is back, and the big three is better. Watch out.
Look out. We're going to show some of your passes. Very aggressive driving, and that's what it took. Everybody watching this, take us through this.
Right there, I saw open gap and said, I'm not lifting anymore, not from until the pit stops. And that's what happened. I mean, that's what we needed. That's what the crew did for me, put me there with that opportunity. From that point on, there's no lifting. And I really have to put my hands down to the Delphi National Guard crew.
Vítor, all the big three, they have all these resources. They have other cars to bounce information off of. How do you guys survive and be at this level?
You know, John Barnes and Mike Griffin put a great bunch of people together. What it takes here, it's people and love for the sport. That's what we have. And the rest we work out ourselves, going after sponsorship, working on the wind tunnel and everything else. That's what we do because we love the sport. And JB put a bunch of guys together, Cripsy, Woody, Andre, everybody's top notch. We are going to be from here better.
And this is a team that almost went away and a driver who almost disappeared from the league, guys. It was a great union here today.
That being said, this is pretty much the lone highlight of Meira's season, as he only earns one more top 5 finish. He'll part ways with Panther going into 2009, and Dan Wheldon enters the team as his replacement. Wheldon had spent the last 3 years at Chip Ganassi's team, and while they enjoyed a fair amount of success, multiple factors led to it making sense for both parties to go their separate ways following 2008. He ends up taking a chance on Panther, the same team that gave him his IndyCar Series debut in 2002. Wheldon's 2009 season isn't much different from Meira's in 2008. He just barely cracks the top 10 in points and only has one podium the entire season, the Indianapolis 500. Wheldon had been fast at Indy last year, qualifying 2nd right behind Dixon, his then teammate. But Wheldon's qualifying performance this year is average at best, slotting in 18th on the grid. In the race, however, Wheldon's able to move up through the field. With under 50 laps to go, he finds himself solidly in the top 5. After the last set of pit stops, he runs 3rd behind Penske teammates Helio Castroneves and Ryan Briscoe. But Briscoe gained his track position by short pitting, and when the next caution comes out for a frightening accident, ironically for Meira, Briscoe is forced to pit. Wheldon is stuck in a battle with Danica Patrick for 2nd, which allows Castroneves to pull away. And that's exactly how they come across the line. Castroneves wins from pole position, and Wheldon holds off Patrick for Panther's 2nd straight runner-up finish in Indianapolis.
5 weeks ago, Helio Castroneves was staring at jail, an orange suit, not a race suit. And now he becomes a 3-time winner of the biggest race in the world. Helio Castroneves wins at Indy.
It's a feel-good victory for Helio. He had missed the season opener at St. Petersburg, as he was under trial for tax evasion, but he's cleared of the charges a month and a half before Indy. But for Panther, the frustration of coming up one spot short to one of the big 3 teams comes back for a 2nd straight year. Although Panther's 2008 race was arguably lost in the pits, Wheldon credits the speed of a team's stops as having played no small role in allowing him to move up through the field.
Well, Panther Racing hired Dan Wheldon because they believed Wheldon would give them a chance to win the Indianapolis 500. You've won this race before. Now, as a member of Panther, you finished 2nd here today. Did you have anything at all for Helio, or was 2nd the best you had?
I have to say, I think certainly the National Guard Panther Racing boys executed today perfectly. I thought they were fantastic in the pits. I think they're probably the class of the field. I can't see everybody, but you know, they were certainly, in my opinion, the best. We just didn't quite have it for him at the end. I mean, the crew have worked incredibly hard the whole month. You know, it doesn't just, you're not just the people at the racetrack, but the people at home as well, back at the shop, and you know, even the families of the people back at the shop. And it was a tough day, but certainly a very rewarding one after a tough month. Honda, you know, have given us good engines again, and proud of them for that. And obviously the Firestones held on. I was pretty loose at the end, but they certainly had enough grip to get me there, so that was good.
A week ago, you were very unhappy with the way the car was handling. Can you put in perspective what a big jump this team made to have the car in the position it did today?
I think I said this morning, certainly just in the short time I've been with the National Guard, I've learned from the troops that that never say die attitude. And I think because a lot of the troops here that I've met, and even the ones overseas and the stories that I hear, I think it's matured me, certainly. And I think in the talk that I had this morning with the guys, it was just I was very proud that they'd never given up, you know, once this month, even through what difficult times we had. And it was the same in the race. You know, we just worked our way to the front, you know, very cleanly, stayed out of trouble. And, you know, like I say, they were phenomenal in the pits. They made my job very easy today. So everybody at Panther Racing and the National Guard number 4 car should be very proud.
Yeah, the servicemen and women of the National Guard very proud today, Marty Reed, of Dan Wheldon, second at the Indianapolis 500.
Wheldon runs it back with Panther in 2010, and the team looks to build on their first season together. Going into the Indy 500, Wheldon's been good, but not great, as he has 1 top 5 and 2 top 10 finishes to his name over the first 5 races. For the second year in a row, Wheldon starts 18th on the grid, and for the second year in a row, he drives through the field to finish second. I'm telling you, I'm always amazed at how many times you see numbers align like this in this sport. With 40 laps to go, Wheldon's made it up into the top 5, and as the race enters the final 100 miles, Sebastian Saavedra crashes out of the race. Now believe it or not, this is an important part of the greater story here. It's a miracle Saavedra's even here. He's driving for a new single-car team, Bryan Herta Autosport. Sound familiar? We'll come back to this team in a bit. But right now, they're competing in their first Indy 500 with a 19-year-old rookie. And when I say Saavedra shouldn't even be here, I'm not exaggerating. With 15 minutes to go on bump day, this is what the battle to qualify for the 2010 Indianapolis 500 looked like. Saavedra only had the 35th fastest time, and he was in the hospital, as he'd crashed in a practice session earlier in the day. You're the second car out of the race, and your driver isn't available to try to improve on your time. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to discover that your chances of making the race are virtually zero. But then, a funny thing happens. Inexplicably, Paul Tracy erases his time from 33rd. He must have thought it wasn't good enough and that he needed to set a faster 4-lap average to ensure he'd have a starting spot.
This may bite them. He might have taken himself out of the Indy 500.
But he goes slower and waves off his attempt, leaving him without a time, and putting Jay Howard on the bubble. And then, in an even more shocking move, Howard erases his time as well, in order to prevent Tracy from making another run.
But here's the clarification. When Paul Tracy pulled his time to make another run, you pull it for good. You don't get it back. Paul Tracy isn't on the bubble. Paul Tracy withdrew his time. Sebastian Saavedra is the one back in. He has a crash car, and he might get in the Indy 500.
That's what it is, yeah.
But he also goes slower. And all of a sudden, Sebastian Saavedra and Bryan Herta Autosport are in the 2010 Indianapolis 500.
We're going to listen in on a phone conversation to Sebastian Saavedra in the hospital.
I'm on the phone with Sebastian right now. We can't believe this. He's at the hospital getting checked out, but...
Did you give him the news?
Hold on, Sebastian.
Give him the news.
I told him, you're in, buddy. I mean, this is the most amazing turn of events. I mean, I don't think there's ever been drama in qualifying on bump day like this, at least forever that I've ever been here. And, you know, my partner Steve Newey and I here, we put so much on the line with this little team to be able to come out here and try and qualify with a rookie driver and a bunch of guys that are just amazing mechanics. And, you know, fate was on our side today because that's the only way I can explain it. And you don't know what this meant to our team because we put everything on the line to make this race.
Saavedra recovers in time for the race, but unfortunately, his race ends in another crash. But the timing of this crash is critical, It comes right on the edge of a fuel window to make it to the end without having to stop again. A few drivers stay out, but most of the leaders pit as they normally would. As the laps begin to wind down, Dario Franchitti, who's dominated much of the race, begins to slow his pace. And at this point, it's Wheldon running right behind him in second. With 4 laps to go, Wheldon is just under 5 seconds behind, but Franchitti starts to let off the gas, running lap 197 at 208 miles an hour, while Wheldon maintains a speed of 214. On lap 198, Franchitti's at 202. Wheldon's backed off as well, but he's still closing at 206. Coming to complete lap 199 and start the final lap, both drivers have noticeably slowed their pace. And then, all of a sudden, the field is frozen by a caution. As Ryan Hunter-Reay runs out of fuel, Mike Conway attempts to pass him on the inside, but runs out of room. He's launched into the air, flying into the catch fence. Conway suffers a broken leg, as well as a compression fracture in his back. He won't race again until 2011.
Dario will pass his childhood hero and win his second Indianapolis 500 as he is able to coast across if he has to now. And Dan Wheldon, for the second year in a row, will finish second right behind him.
For Dario, this is the second of 3 career wins in the 500. And for Wheldon, it's his second runner-up in a row, and the third for his Panther Racing team. But this one might sting a bit more, as Wheldon admits he probably didn't need to save as much fuel as he did.
Standing by with Dan Wheldon, who finished second, and I'm looking at a wily veteran here. You were on the same fuel strategy, basically, as Dario Franchitti, but you had more fuel at the end. How?
Well, first and foremost, I got to thank, the National Guard for giving me the honor of driving their race car. It's truly a pleasure, especially on Memorial Day weekend. I think, hopefully that put a smile on all the soldiers' faces out there that are out in Iraq and Afghanistan and, across the globe, because it's truly very touching to drive their car. And, they've been a great supporter of me and everybody at Panther Racing. But I was on the same strategy as Dario, but I'm going to... I was very disciplined for once in my life. I could hear the team screaming at me to save fuel, but I had a feeling that they were telling me a story when they said I was comfortable at the start of that stint. And I took it upon myself to save a lot early on, just because I could see the fuel number and I could see the amount of laps left. And, I just was saving and saving and saving. And then it got to the point where everybody slowed down, but I kept staying the same pace. And I could see him at the end, but when they were screaming at me, I just backed it off. And unfortunately, I should have kept going, because I had fuel in the car when it came into the pits. But an excellent job. I want to thank Honda and Firestone. I should thank my wife too, because I've been tough to deal with. This is such a great race. There's so many fans here. It's thanks to IZOD for making IndyCar sexy again and cool, but it's been a great day so far.
All right, Dan Wheldon finishing second for the second time in a row.
The rest of 2010 has a few shining moments here and there. Wheldon picks up another second-place finish at Chicago, and the team actually enters a second car for Ed Carpenter in a handful of races, which had included the Indy 500. Carpenter's stint with Panther is largely uneventful, though he does pick up a second-place finish of his own at Kentucky, with Wheldon following in third for his third podium of the year. But by the end of the season, Wheldon's relationship with Panther has taken a turn for the worse. He files a lawsuit against the team, alleging he wasn't paid on time for his salary and his agreed share of race winnings. But the two sides are able to reach a settlement on October 1st, the day before the season finale at Homestead. And while neither Wheldon nor Panther rule out continuing their partnership in 2011, Wheldon's ultimately replaced over the offseason by incoming rookie J.R. Hildebrand. Unbelievably, Wheldon is unable to find a full-time opportunity for the 2011 season. But then something funny happens. He gets a few offers to drive the 500, one of which comes from his former teammate Bryan Herta. Now, based on what we talked about earlier, to say Bryan Herta Autosport is a small team is a massive understatement. They barely qualified for the race last year, and this year's 500 will be just the second start ever for the team. And their car is a 2003 chassis, leased from Sam Schmidt Motorsports. Yet this is who Wheldon goes with, a team with just one race under their belt, for which they barely qualified and eventually crashed out, with a chassis that's 8 years old. Maybe he sees something the average driver wouldn't have, because he signs a contract to race for the team on a one-race deal for the 500.
I'm very excited to announce that I'm going to be driving in the Indianapolis 500. I'm desperate to win it again because I was so young when I won it. Now I'm a bit more mature and stuff like that. I want to feel it again.
While Wheldon's car is entered by Herta's team, it's prepared by Sam Schmidt's, and Schmidt's cars show speed in the month of May. Alex Tagliani drives the team's 77 car to pole position, and Wheldon won't have to worry about starting in the middle of the pack this year, as he slots in on the outside of the second row in 6th place. And just as he has each of the last 2 years, Wheldon shows great speed all throughout the race. And just as it did last year, the race comes down to a chess match in regards to fuel management. A crash occurs on lap 158 between Ryan Briscoe and Townsend Bell, and the race won't restart until there's 35 laps to go. But on lap 164, a handful of drivers come into the pits to top off on fuel, in the hopes of going the distance should the race run green to the finish. This includes Franchitti, the defending winner, and none other than Hildebrand, Panther Racing's new driver. Panther is hoping that they can play their cards right and finally do one spot better than they've done each of the last 3 years. And it's up to an Indy 500 rookie to get them there. But Wheldon's on a different strategy. He tried playing the fuel game with Panther last year and came up short. So this year, he brings his car into the pits under green with 24 to go. As the laps wind down, Danica Patrick inherits the lead for a handful of laps, before she's overtaken by Bobby Rahal and David Letterman's young driver, Bertrand Baguette. Baguette has even less fuel in his tank than Franchitti and Hildebrand, so everyone's pretty confident he'll have to stop before the finish. But in the closing laps, he stays out. Then he stays out again. Then he stays out again. The laps keep ticking off and Baguette's still out there. It looks like he might have a legitimate chance at it. But the glass slipper doesn't quite fit in this Cinderella story. Baguette finally pits from the lead coming to 3 to go. At this point, Hildebrand has the upper hand on Franchitti. Panther instructed him to save fuel earlier in the stint so that he could push a bit more at the end if needed. He inherits the lead when Baguette pits, having recently gotten around Dario for second.
Let's go back and show you the pass. It was for second place at the time, and now the 23-year-old rookie is in the race lead.
Only at Indy.
Next time by, 2 laps remaining. Rick, give us an update on J.R. Hildebrand.
Well, let's talk about what happened last year. That's what's significant. Dan Wheldon was driving for Panther at the time. Remember, he pitted early. He saved fuel at the beginning of the stint. As a result, because he saved fuel at the beginning of the stint, Wheldon was able to run fast at the end, at the very end of the race. They've done the same thing with J.R. Hildebrand. He pitted early, saved fuel at the beginning of the stint, so you have it to run at the end, and that's what he's doing right now. Could he be the next rookie winner of the Indy 500?
His last lap was at 2:16.
Coming to the final lap, Hildebrand has a pretty comfortable lead over Wheldon, who's recently gotten around Scott Dixon and is free to run as hard as he can. But it looks like the gap is too much to overcome. The only way Wheldon wins is if Hildebrand runs out of fuel. Or if fate says otherwise.
Half a lap. He's got half a lap to go, and he's the Indy 500 champion.
Panther Racing, oh so good. They finished second here, twice here. They come again through the final 2 corners. J.R. Hildebrand.
Careful of traffic.
He's got to get around the lap. Traffic. 100 years. No! He hit the wall! Just like Thomas Schechter. Just like Schechter. Dan Wheldon is going to win the race.
Yeah, Dan!
That is unbelievable. Oh my goodness.
Wheldon, after finishing second the last 2 years, wins when J.R. Hildebrand hits the wall coming out of 4, just as Schechter did.
What a tremendous finish. What a drive for Wheldon. I've been saying it all day, that outside lane is
I love you so much!
That was Dan Wheldon, if you didn't know. Absolutely incredible finish here at the 100th anniversary of the Indianapolis 500.
Whew. Driving for Bryan Herta Motorsport.
Stay out on the track. Stay out on the track.
He becomes the 9th driver with 2 wins. And while he is celebrating, J.R. Hildebrand is aching inside.
Yeah.
Well done, my man. Well done.
You know, we came here to win, and we kept saying we're here to win, but we actually won.
Bryan Herta, second time at the Indy 500 as a team owner. He wins it with Dan Wheldon, and guys, Sam Schmidt's car is the one that goes to victory lane. He will be in victory lane as well.
There's a lot of great storylines today, and I want to I want to say hi to my family back home and my mother. And, you know, the Alzheimer's Association for giving me the opportunity to represent them. It's just an incredible day.
Congratulations, Dan Wheldon, the winner of the Centennial Anniversary Indianapolis 500.
Taking my kids to Disney, baby. I'm taking my kids to Disney.
This is one of those moments of great serendipity that simply cannot be explained any other way. All Hildebrand has to do is coast home to the win. Yet the lap car of Charlie Kimball begins slowing in turn 4 on the final lap. Hildebrand tries to power by on the outside, but drifts high, out of the groove, and into the wall. Panther will have to settle for second again, in perhaps the most heartbreaking circumstance imaginable. To add to the agony of defeat, it's the driver they finished second with the previous 2 years who steals the victory.
Well, I'm standing by with John Barnes. Yeah, it's your 4th second in a row, but you came so close. What do you have to say about J.R. Hildebrand today?
Well, I think he was incredible. I think he did a hell of a job. The guys did too. I mean, you know, to come here with a rookie guy and his first Indianapolis 500, you know, he'll rethink turn 4 for a long time. But, you know, he put us where we were at. You know, he drove the hell out of that thing all day long. And, you know, it just is one of those things. You know, we got to hold our heads up high.
When he made that last pit stop, did you think he was going to be able to make it all the way to the end?
He really had to save fuel. And again, I mean, he put us in a position to win. You know, we told him what fuel number we had to get. It was almost impossible to do, you know, but he did it, you know, and so, you know, he drove the wheels off of it and stuff. I couldn't be prouder of him today.
John Barnes, once again, a little bittersweet. Yeah, he got second place the 4th time in a row, but oh, what it could have been.
Panthers now finished second in the Indianapolis 500, an unprecedented 4 years in a row. And Wheldon has been directly involved in each of the last 3. But to his credit, the 23-year-old Hildebrand handles his defeat exceptionally well. And thanks to Panther team for putting him in the position to fight for the win.
Well, needless to say, not a lot you can even ask here, JR. What happened on that last lap?
Man, you know, we were obviously way at the end of, you know, a fuel stint, and I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna get around Charlie. I knew that the guys behind me were coming, and I thought I don't want to have to stop going through turn 4 and have these guys back up on me. You know, we were super tight on fuel, and so I went to the high side. As soon as I got up there, I just got up in the marbles and, you know, pushed up in the wall.
You're a rookie here at Indy. You got to talk about this experience, what it was like to lead, what it was like to run here your first race and do so well up to the end.
You know, man, like, I owe all of it to this team. This team deserved to win today. They've come in second the last 3 years in a row, and I really didn't want to be the next bridesmaid when it came to us at the end there. You know, if we were running great and we finished 5th and that was the best we could get, you know, that's just what you get, you know. But, you know, we have a chance to win for a team like this on Memorial Day weekend with all the soldiers. We got a bunch of people out here this weekend. You know, I felt like I really owed this to them and this team. And, you know, it's just a bummer to come home second again.
J.R. Hildebrand, I got to tell you guys, after he came out of the medical center, wouldn't stop to do an interview because he said, I want to go talk to my team first. These guys put me here. I need to talk to them.
He'll learn a lot from this experience, and he has nothing to hang his head about. He was trying to win his first Indianapolis 500 as Dan Wheldon celebrates his second win.
The next 4.5 months are a roller coaster of emotions. Despite being part-time and, in his words, unemployed.
A champion in ignominy, my friend.
An unemployed champion, but at the banquet I received the prize money check, which was $2.6 million. That was the best unemployment check I've received.
Wow. Now,
I might add, I don't get all of that, just to clarify.
Still in all, it's a nice number to say.
Wheldon was on top of the racing world. He was tapped to help develop the new generation of chassis for IndyCar, which would eventually be known as the DW12 in his honor. And he even worked as an analyst for a handful of IndyCar races on Versus. But Dan would also be at the center of attention going into the season finale at Las Vegas. Series CEO Randy Bernard had a massive jackpot on hand. $5 million, intending to offer it to any non-IndyCar Series driver who could come in, beat all the series regulars, and win the race. Bernard is trying to attract interest by pulling a superstar from a series like NASCAR or Formula One, but race day is fast approaching and nobody has taken him up on the challenge. So what does Bernard do? He revises the offer. A driver who's part-time in the series can compete for the bonus and be awarded $2.5 million for themselves, with the other $2.5 million going to a lucky fan. Wheldon accepts the offer. He's able to find a ride with Sam Schmidt, driving the same car Tagliani put on pole at Indianapolis. And in return, Tagliani will get to drive Herta's 98 car, the car with which Wheldon won the 500. As part of the challenge, Wheldon starts dead last in a massive 34-car field, but his confidence certainly isn't lacking.
You know, we've had a tough weekend so far, but, you know, I think the Bowers and Wilkins at Magnolia, William Rast, Curb and Big Machine Records car will, definitely come to the front.
Big question everybody wants to know, Dan, today is, can you win and take home the $5 million bonus?
Honestly, Scott, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think that I could win.
The race begins, and the on-track action produces absolute chaos. Tagliani touches wheels with Ryan Briscoe and Ryan Hunter-Reay near the front of the field, nearly resulting in a massive crash. Further in the back, Will Power struggles for speed, as he's passed by several cars, including Wheldon.
And there is Will, look who's passed him, the 77 of Dan Wheldon.
After 10 laps, Wheldon's already gained 10 spots, riding in 24th place. We all know what happens next. There's not really any way to sugarcoat it.
Looking for Dan Wheldon. Started 34th in this field. He has moved up 10 spots. You're on board with him. And one thing he was worried about going into this race was all that dirty air created by 34 cars.
But right now, the position he's in, he actually has a small advantage because everybody else is opening the air up in front of him. And here we go.
Trouble contact and a huge crash. Up in turn number 2. Oh, multiple cars involved. Oh, my. It looks like Dan Wheldon may be involved in it.
Dan Wheldon was involved in it, and he also sustained the most serious injury, blunt force trauma to the head. Wheldon's airlifted to a local hospital, where he's pronounced dead on arrival at 1:54 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And what was supposed to be a day of incredible celebration and fanfare for a series still recovering from the split, turns into one of the most tragic days in racing history. And drawing it back to Panther, their team gets hit pretty hard in the accident too. Hildebrand is also injured, but recovers fairly quickly, in plenty of time to return to the team for 2012. But he won't finish better than 5th in the next season and a half with Panther. In fact, after an early crash in the 2013 running of the 500, they'll release him entirely. Ryan Briscoe, Oriol Servia, and Carlos Munoz finish the season for the team, but they lose the National Guard sponsorship to Graham Rahal and Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing at the end of the season. Panther sues the Rahal team over alleged bid rigging for the sponsorship, and by April, only a handful of staff remain with the organization as their equipment starts to be sold off. By August 2014, Panther Racing is no more. You always have to feel a little bit for the driver and team that finished the Indy 500 in second place. And when that team is faced with coming oh so close 4 years in a row, that takes it to a whole different level. But let's ask the good old what-if question here. If Panther wins in 2008, Scott Dixon is still looking for his first Indy 500 win to this day. And that's unfathomable for the 6-time champion, who's currently 1 win away from tying Mario Andretti for second all-time. If Panther wins in 2009, Helio Castroneves is only a 3-time Indy 500 champion. And hey, we probably still would have gotten a pretty enthusiastic celebration out of Helio this year, but it wouldn't have meant nearly as much as his record-tying 4th win. If Panther wins in 2010, Dario Franchitti's name isn't among the few that have even won the race 3 times. And if Panther wins in 2011, Dan Wheldon doesn't get to experience that moment of celebration with his family before his death. It's amazing how just one slightly slower pit stop, one dominant month by a man unjustly faced with potential jail time just a few weeks earlier, one overly conservative fuel mileage run, one honest mistake by a rookie, can completely alter the course of history. But then again, maybe Dan doesn't even run that race at Las Vegas if Panther wins one of these races. Maybe he stays with the team in 2011 if they're able to win it together in 2010. Or maybe Hildebrand clears Kimball cleanly, and Wheldon comes home second in 2011. There certainly wouldn't have been as much fanfare surrounding him if he'd finished second for the 3rd year in a row. And maybe Randy Bernard would have gotten somebody else to take up his offer instead. We know Dan had a contract in place to run for Andretti in 2012 and beyond, and who knows what would have happened after that. Dan was only 33 and was on a streak of 3 consecutive top 2 Indy 500 finishes at the time of his death. When Bryan Herta had said in May,
Dan Wheldon's the best race car driver at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway probably ever.
That's not an exaggeration. You can make a legitimate argument for Dan. Elio just proved that you can win the 500 at 46. Dan would be 43 if he were still with us today, which means there's a good chance he'd still be racing as well. Who knows? Maybe Dan Wheldon would be a 4-time winner of the Indianapolis 500.
All right, Vítor Meira, the new driver of AJ Foyt Enterprises number 14 car. How's this test going for you guys today?
So far, so good.
I was looking there at the pole, and I was thinking, I don't know who the heck's going to win it, but everybody up there was a friend of Dan's, and I think that about sums it up. Everybody loved Dan.
Dan has had a very, very busy schedule here for the last couple of weeks. And JR, I think your schedule has been a little bit like an Indianapolis 500 winner.
Yeah, it has. We've been going all over the place trying to explain, I guess, everything that went down. But, really, really positive results from everybody, and it's been a lot of fun.
One of the most popular spectator corners at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway when we're in road course configuration for the Grand Am the last couple of years, and even F1 before that, is right here in Stand H and Stand J a little bit behind me.
Herta, you won with Dan Wheldon this way a few years ago. Now you've come back with Alexander Rossi. You've taken a rookie to the win here at the Indy 500. How did you do it?
You know what? Everything has to go right here. You know, I want to thank DW and, you know, the time we had here in 2011. This is unbelievable.
You know, I find a lot of comfort at the track with my boys. I don't really know how to explain it because it feels like home, and watching them out there is really something special. And people ask, how can you let them race? And I always say, it's not really my decision, it's theirs, it's always been theirs.